The massive chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with whispers and quiet laughter. Hundreds of alien representatives from across the galaxy sat in curved rows that rose like stadium seats, all looking down at the small group of humans standing in the center. Colonel Sarah Chen kept her face neutral, even as she heard the barely concealed snickers from above. "And this," she said, holding up an advanced assault rifle, "is one of Earth's standard military weapons." Her voice echoed through the chamber, clear and professional despite the growing murmurs of amusement. High Minister Zextal, a tall being with silvery skin and glowing purple eyes, leaned forward in his floating chair. "You mean to tell us," he said, his universal translator giving his words a hint of mockery, "that your species still uses projectile weapons, pieces of metal propelled by chemical explosions?" More laughter rippled through the chamber. A representative from the Crix Federation, whose crystalline bodies sparkled under the chamber's lights, didn't even try to hide their amusement. "How quaint. They're still in their gunpowder age." Colonel Chen glanced at her team. Captain Rodriguez and Lieutenant Wong stood at attention, their faces as carefully blank as hers. They had expected this reaction, but experiencing it was different. Earth's first contact with the Galactic Council was not going as they had hoped. "Perhaps," High Minister Zextal said, raising a hand to quiet the chamber, "we should show our Earth visitors what real weapons look like." He gestured to a side door, where two guards entered carrying sleek, silver devices that hummed with energy. "These are standard-issue pulse rifles," Zextal explained. "They fire concentrated plasma bolts that can pierce any known material." He pointed to a target at the far end of the chamber. One of the guards fired, and a brilliant blue beam struck the target, leaving a smoking hole. "Most impressive," Chen said politely. She noticed how the weapon's charge took 3 seconds to build up before firing. "Interesting. And of course," Zextal continued, "all our ships and soldiers are protected by energy shields." He activated a personal shield, surrounding himself with a faint blue glow. "No physical projectile can penetrate these barriers. They simply disintegrate on contact." Chen nodded, keeping her thoughts to herself. She had noticed how the shield shimmed slightly after each activation, suggesting a reset period. Another interesting detail. "Now then," Zextal said, his tone becoming more formal, "based on your demonstration and our analysis of Earth's technology, this council must make its classification." He pressed some buttons on his floating console. "Earth shows signs of early space travel capability, but your weapons technology is severely lacking. We classify you as a Level 2 civilization." Gasps and mutters filled the chamber. Several representatives shook their heads in sympathy. A Level 2 classification was just one step above primitive societies. "This means," Zextal continued, "that Earth will be granted limited trading rights and restricted access to Council space. For your own protection, of course. We cannot have primitive weapons being used in civilized sectors." Colonel Chen bowed slightly. "We accept the Council's decision with grace," she said, her voice steady. "Earth thanks you for this opportunity to join the galactic community." As her team packed up their weapons demonstration, Chen caught fragments of conversations from above. "Can you believe they still use explosions to fire metal? How have they not blown themselves up yet? At least they're polite for primitives." Chen allowed herself a small smile as she secured the rifle case. Let them laugh. Let them dismiss Earth's weapons as primitive. She had served in enough combat zones to know that simple solutions often worked best. And she hadn't missed how none of the Council species had demonstrated their weapons' effectiveness against moving targets or shown their shield's response to multiple simultaneous impacts. As her team left the chamber, Chen felt the weight of the small data recorder in her pocket. Earth's military analysts would be very interested in the technical details she had observed today. Very interested indeed. The Council could laugh all they wanted. Chen had a feeling they wouldn't be laughing for long. 3 months after Earth's classification as a Level 2 civilization, the Galactic Council faced its first real crisis in centuries. The emergency meeting chamber was packed with nervous representatives, their usual confidence replaced by fear. High Minister Zextal's hologram flickered as he addressed the council. His silver skin had lost its shine, and his purple eyes darted around nervously. "The colony on Proxima 7 has fallen," he announced, just like the others. The chamber erupted in panic. 17 colonies had been attacked in the past month. None of their advanced defenses had worked. "Show them the footage," Zextal commanded. The central display activated, showing security recordings from Proxima 7. The council members watched in horror as mysterious ships appeared from hyperspace. They were dark, angular vessels that looked nothing like the smooth designs of council ships. "Our energy shields failed completely," reported General Crix, his crystalline form dulled with stress. "The attackers used some kind of solid projectiles. They moved too fast for our sensors to track." In the back of the chamber, Colonel Chen sat quietly with her small Earth delegation. They had been invited to observe council meetings as part of their Level 2 status. Now she watched the footage with growing concern. The recording showed council defense ships firing their plasma weapons at the attackers. Beautiful blue energy beams lit up space, but the dark ships simply took the hits on their thick armor. Then the attackers fired back. There was no bright flash, no energy beam, just sudden holes appearing in council ships, followed by explosions. "They're using kinetic weapons," whispered Captain Rodriguez to Chen. "Looks like railguns or mass drivers." Chen nodded. The attack pattern was familiar to any human military officer. These weren't energy weapons that could be deflected by shields. These were solid projectiles, accelerated to incredible speeds, punching straight through ships like paper. "We must act," shouted a representative from the Vork system. "Our colonies are defenseless against these barbarians." High Minister Zextal raised his hands for silence. "Our best scientists are working on the problem. We will find a way to strengthen our shields." "Minister," interrupted General Crix, "our shields are not the problem. They work perfectly against energy weapons. But these attackers," he paused, looking uncomfortable, "they're using technology we abandoned thousands of years ago. We have no defense against physical projectiles at these velocities." Chen watched as realization spread through the chamber. The Council's advanced technology, their energy weapons and shields, all useless against simple physics. A fast-moving piece of metal couldn't be stopped by an energy field designed to deflect plasma. The whispers started. Representatives looked nervously at the Earth delegation. Just 3 months ago, they had laughed at humans for using projectile weapons. Now, similar weapons were tearing through their defenses. "Perhaps," said Zextal slowly, his hologram turning towards Chen, "our Earth colleagues might have some insights into these attacks." Chen stood up, her face professional. "Earth would be happy to share our expertise in kinetic weapon defense strategies," she said carefully. "We have centuries of experience in this area." The chamber was silent now. No one was laughing. "However," Chen continued, "as a Level 2 civilization, we are restricted from sharing our military technology. Council regulations are quite clear on this point." She allowed herself a small smile, remembering their first meeting in this chamber. Zextal's hologram flickered again. "Yes, about that classification. Perhaps we should discuss revising it." Chen nodded politely, but inside she felt a grim satisfaction. The Council was about to learn that sometimes the old ways were the best ways, and Earth's primitive weapons might be exactly what they needed to survive. The emergency meeting room in Earth's United Defense Command was nothing like the Grand Galactic Council chamber. Plain metal walls, practical displays, and simple chairs surrounded a sturdy conference table. Colonel Chen sat at one end, facing the most unusual group of visitors Earth had ever hosted. High Minister Zextal himself had come to Earth, along with General Crix and 3 other council representatives. Their elegant robes and natural glow seemed out of place in the military facility. 26 colonies lost, Zextal said, his voice heavy. "Our death toll is in the millions, and now we know who they are." He placed a holographic projector on the table. The image showed a massive alien ship, its dark hull covered in weapon ports. The Vorkath, an ancient species we thought extinct. They were famous for their advanced kinetic weapons before we... He paused, looking embarrassed. Before you decided projectile weapons were primitive. Chen finished for him. She kept her tone neutral, but several human officers around the table shifted in their seats, hiding small smiles. Yes, Zextal admitted. Our ancestors faced them 10,000 years ago. That's when we developed energy weapons and shields. The Vorkath disappeared, and we... He spread his hands helplessly. We forgot. We forgot why kinetic weapons were so effective. General Crix stepped forward, his crystalline form catching the room's light. We need your help, he said simply. Earth's expertise in projectile warfare might be our only hope. Chen nodded to Captain Rodriguez, who activated the room's main display. We've analyzed your footage, she said. The Vorkath are using advanced mass drivers and railguns, but the principles are the same ones we've been using for centuries. The display showed detailed breakdowns of the attack patterns. Here, Rodriguez pointed, they're using synchronized volleys to overwhelm specific sections of your ships. And here, they're employing what we call saturation fire, too many projectiles for your point defense to track. The council members watched in fascination as the humans explained basic combat tactics they had dismissed as primitive just months ago. We can help you, Chen said finally. But we need full access to your ships and defense systems. No more restrictions. No more Level 2 classification. Zextal looked at his fellow council members, who nodded quickly. Agreed, he said. Earth will be reclassified as a Level 1 civilization, with full trading and military rights. There's more, Chen continued. We'll need to modify your ships. Add proper armor plating, install kinetic weapon systems, train your crews in ballistic combat tactics. Whatever you need, Crix said earnestly. Our energy weapons are useless against their armor and our shields. He trailed off. Chen stood and walked to a weapon case on the wall. She opened it and removed an advanced rifle, similar to the one she had demonstrated months ago. Sometimes, she said, the simplest solution is the best one. She handed the weapon to Zextal, who held it awkwardly. Your people will need to learn how to use these, she said, along with larger versions for your ships. The physics don't change with size, just the numbers involved. You'll teach us? Zextal asked, examining the rifle with new respect. We'll start right now, Chen said. She gestured to the door. We've set up a firing range. Time to show you why Earth never gave up on projectile weapons. As they walked to the range, Shen thought about how quickly things had changed. 3 months ago, the Council had laughed at human weapons. Now they were eager students, ready to learn what Earth had known all along, that sometimes a simple bullet could do what no energy beam could manage. The real work was about to begin, and Earth would show the galaxy why you should never underestimate primitive technology. The massive hangar bay of the Council's flagship, Stellar Dawn, had been transformed into something that would have looked familiar to any human military engineer. The smooth, aesthetic walls were now covered with weapon schematics. The once empty floor space was filled with partially assembled railguns and coilgun prototypes. Colonel Chen walked between workstations where human technicians worked alongside Council engineers. The sight would have been unthinkable 3 months ago. Humans teaching advanced aliens about weapon systems. Watch the power flow carefully, a human engineer explained to a group of fascinated Council technicians. Too much juice, and you'll melt the rails. Too little, and your projectile won't reach killing velocity. At another station, Captain Rodriguez supervised the installation of a massive railgun on a Council cruiser. The recoil is your friend, he shouted up to the alien work crew. Use it to help rotate for your next shot. Basic physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Chen smiled as she heard an alien engineer mutter, "How did we forget something so simple?" She approached High Minister Zextal, who was studying a holographic display of projectile trajectories. His silver skin reflected the red warning markers that showed fatal impact points on Vorkath ship designs. "Your people are learning quickly," Chen said. Zextal nodded. "We had to. The Vorkath hit another colony yesterday." He pointed to a simulation running on a side screen. "But this time, we were ready. The modified defense ships you helped us build took down 2 of their cruisers." The simulation showed Council ships, now bristling with human-designed weapon systems, engaging the dark Vorkath vessels. Instead of useless energy beams, storms of hypervelocity projectiles crossed the space between ships. The Vorkath, for the first time, had faced enemies who could fight back effectively. General Crix was particularly impressed, Zextal continued. He said the sound of the railguns firing through his ship's hull reminded him of, what was the term? Thunder. Yes, Chen smiled. "We have a saying on Earth, sound and fury. Your energy weapons are beautiful, but silent in space. Our guns make the whole ship shake. It lets you feel the power you're unleashing." They walked to a testing area where Lieutenant Wang was demonstrating the latest innovation, a hybrid weapon system that used energy fields to accelerate projectiles even faster than traditional railguns. "Watch this," Wang said to his audience. He activated the weapon, and a small tungsten rod shot through 3 layers of Vorkath armor plate. The impact left a clean hole, edges melted from the sheer kinetic energy released. "Incredible," whispered a council scientist. "We spent centuries trying to make our energy beams more powerful when we should have been looking at basic kinetic physics all along." Chen checked her tablet as new reports came in. More council ships were being retrofitted with human weapon designs. Training programs were showing excellent results. Council crews were quickly mastering the art of ballistic combat. "Minister," she said, turning to Zextal, "the first full battle group will be ready for deployment tomorrow. All ships equipped with Mark II railguns and improved armor plating. Your crews have qualified on all weapon systems." Zextal's purple eyes glowed with determination. "And the Vorkath won't expect any of it. They think we're still hiding behind our useless energy shields." "Exactly," Chen agreed. "Sometimes the best advantage is surprise. They won't know you've changed your tactics until it's too late." As they watched another successful weapons test, Chen reflected on how far they'd come. The council had moved from mockery to respect, from dismissal to eager learning. And tomorrow, they would show the Vorkath that the galaxy had remembered something important. Sometimes the old ways, the primitive ways, were exactly what you needed. The thunder of railguns echoed through the hangar, the sound of humanity's gift to the stars, and the sound of the Council's coming victory. The bridge of the Council flagship Stellar Dawn shook with the thunder of railguns. Colonel Chen braced herself against a control panel as another volley of hypervelocity rounds streaked toward the Vorkath fleet. On the main view screen, she watched with satisfaction as the projectiles tore through the enemy ship's armor. Multiple direct hits called out Lieutenant Wang from his tactical station. 2 Vorkath destroyers critically damaged. Their formation is breaking. High Minister Zextal stood at the command position, his silver skin reflecting the flashes of combat. He had insisted on personally leading this counterattack, and now his purple eyes gleamed with fierce pride. "Launch the second wave," he ordered, "just like the humans taught us." The Council battle group moved with precision that would have impressed any Earth naval commander. Ships arranged themselves in overlapping fields of fire, their newly installed railguns creating a deadly crossfire zone. The Vorkath fleet, caught completely by surprise, struggled to adjust to their opponent's new tactics. "Enemy flagship is launching fighters," reported General Crix from his crystalline command chair. "They're trying to get inside our formation." "Perfect," Chen smiled. "Spring the trap." At her word, smaller council vessels revealed their own surprise, rapid-fire point defense guns based on human anti-aircraft systems. The space around the council ships erupted with walls of tungsten projectiles. Vorkath fighters, designed to dodge energy beams, found themselves flying into clouds of hypersonic metal. Within minutes, The fighter attack had been shattered. Main enemy force is attempting to retreat, Wang announced. They're charging their jump drives. Not this time, Zextal said firmly. He touched a control panel, and new weapons came online. Massive coil guns mounted on the flagship's bow. These ships have terrorized our colonies for too long. Show them what Earth's weapons can do. The coil guns fired, sending meter-long projectiles accelerated to near-relativistic speeds. The rounds caught the Vorkath ships as they tried to flee, punching clean through their engine sections. Secondary explosions bloomed in the silence of space. Enemy flagship disabled, Crix reported with satisfaction. Their power grid is failing. The rest of their fleet is in full retreat. Chen watched as the remaining Vorkath ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving their crippled flagship behind. The bridge crew, a mix of council species and human advisors, broke into cheers. Send the boarding teams, Zextal ordered. I want that ship's database. We need to find the rest of their fleet. As council marines prepared to board the Vorkath vessel, Chen studied the tactical display. The battle had been decisive. 4 enemy ships destroyed, 3 severely damaged, and their flagship captured. And the council forces had suffered only minor damage, their new armor plating easily absorbing the few hits the Vorkath had managed to land. I must admit, Zextal said quietly to Chen, when you first showed us these weapon designs, I thought they were too simple to be effective. I was wrong. Today proved that sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Simple doesn't mean primitive, Chen replied. Humanity learned that lesson through centuries of warfare. A bullet doesn't care about your energy shields. It just follows the laws of physics. The bridge shook slightly as boarding craft attached to the captured Vorkath flagship. Soon, they would have intelligence on the enemy's remaining forces, their base locations, their strategic plans. This is only the beginning, Crix said, his crystalline form pulsing with excitement. With these new weapons, we can drive the Vorkath from council space entirely. Chen nodded. The galaxy was changing. The council had rediscovered the power of kinetic weapons, and the Vorkath were learning a harsh lesson. Never underestimate a primitive solution, especially when it's backed by centuries of human combat experience. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if celebrating this first decisive victory in the war for survival. Deep within the captured Vorkath flagship, Colonel Chen stood in what appeared to be an ancient archive room. The walls were covered with historical records and weapon schematics that dated back thousands of years. But it was the central hologram that had everyone's attention. Play it again, High Minister Zextal requested, his purple eyes wide with disbelief. The hologram flickered to life, showing scenes from the galaxy's distant past. Massive ships, not unlike modern human vessels, engaged in combat using projectile weapons. The timestamp showed a date from over 15,000 years ago. These are our ancestors, General Crix said, his crystalline form dimming with shock. Before we discovered energy weapons, we used to fight exactly like humans do now. Captain Rodriguez studied the ancient weapon designs displayed on the walls. These are remarkably similar to our own railgun systems, he said. The basic principles haven't changed. Accelerate a mass to high velocity and let physics do the rest. Chen watched as more historical records played out. The holograms showed the gradual transition from kinetic to energy weapons. It was a mistake, she said quietly. Your civilization didn't advance by switching to energy weapons. You actually lost something valuable. Zextal nodded slowly. We thought energy weapons were more advanced, more civilized. But look at these combat records. He gestured to a data screen showing ancient battle statistics. Our kinetic weapon ships had higher success rates than anything we've achieved with energy weapons. The room fell silent as more revelations appeared. The Vorkath, it seemed, were not just random attackers. They were guardians of the old ways, a splinter group that had rejected the switch to energy weapons millennia ago. That's why they attacked us, Lieutenant Wang said, reviewing the translated Vorkath logs. They saw the Council's dependence on energy weapons as a weakness that needed to be corrected. They were trying to force us to remember. Through violence, Crix added bitterly. They could have simply shared this knowledge. Chen walked to another display, this one showing the principles behind the Vorkath's most advanced railguns. Sometimes people won't learn unless they're forced to, she said. How many times did the Council dismiss Earth's weapons as primitive? Zextal had the grace to look embarrassed. We were blind, he admitted. Our prejudice against primitive technology nearly doomed us. If Earth hadn't joined the Council when it did. Here's something interesting, Rodriguez called out. He had accessed another section of the archive. The earliest spacefaring civilizations all used kinetic weapons. It wasn't until much later that energy weapons became dominant. The implications were staggering. The Council hadn't advanced by abandoning projectile weapons. They have forgotten crucial military knowledge. Earth, by maintaining its primitive technology, had preserved something ancient and powerful. We need to show this to the full Council, Zextal decided. Every member species needs to understand what we lost, and what Earth helped us rediscover. Chen nodded. And we should study these ancient designs. Maybe we can combine this historical knowledge with modern technology, create something even better. As if to emphasize her point, the ship shuddered slightly. In the distance, they could hear the thunder of the new railguns being tested. The sound represented a bridge between past and present, between the Council's forgotten history and humanity's preserved knowledge. It's ironic, Crix said, his crystalline form reflecting the holographic displays. We thought we were teaching Earth about advanced technology. Instead, Earth taught us to remember our own history. Zextal touched one of the ancient weapon schematics with something like reverence. Perhaps this is why the galaxy needed humanity, he said, not to learn new things, but to remember old truths we have forgotten. The ancient archive held many more secrets, but one truth was already clear. Sometimes the path forward requires looking back, and sometimes the most primitive solution is the most profound. 1 year after the discovery of the ancient archives, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. Where once there had been only smooth walls and energy field projectors, now there were weapon displays showing both energy and kinetic systems. And at the center of it all stood Colonel Sarah Chen, now wearing the gold insignia of the Council's chief military advisor. The integration of Earth's military knowledge with recovered ancient designs has exceeded all expectations, she reported to the assembled representatives. Every Council member species has now established at least one joint training facility with Earth instructors. High Minister Zextal, his silver skin gleaming with pride, gestured to a holographic display showing the new Council defense fleet. Ships now carried both energy and kinetic weapons, their crews trained in both ancient and modern combat techniques. And what of the Vorkath? Asked a representative from the outer systems. They have accepted our peace offer, General Crix answered, his crystalline form pulsing with satisfaction. Once we demonstrated our return to balanced warfare, using both kinetic and energy weapons, they agreed to rejoin the Council. Their experience with advanced projectile weapons has proven invaluable in our new training programs. The chamber's main screen showed footage from one of the new training academies. Council species from across the galaxy practiced with various weapon systems. Energy rifles fired alongside railguns, while instructors from Earth and the Vorkath worked together to teach combined arms tactics. Perhaps most significantly, Chen continued, we've successfully developed hybrid weapons that combine the best of both technologies. She activated a demonstration video showing the latest Council warship. Energy fields now guide and accelerate kinetic projectiles, while plasma containment systems learned from energy weapons help manage railgun heat buildup. The chamber filled with appreciative murmurs. 1 year ago, these same representatives had laughed at primitive human weapons. Now they eagerly studied the integration of kinetic and energy combat systems. Earth's status has been officially upgraded, Zextal announced. No longer merely level 1, but recognized as a founding authority in military sciences. All Council species will now have unlimited access to Earth's military knowledge, and in return, Earth will help guide our combined defense forces. Chen remembered standing in this same spot a year ago, enduring the Council's mockery of human weapons. Now she watched as the Chamber's voting system displayed unanimous approval of Earth's new status. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. "We have learned much from Earth," Crix said, addressing the Chamber. "Not just about weapons, but about the danger of dismissing ideas as primitive simply because they are old or simple. The laws of physics haven't changed in millions of years. Sometimes the simplest solution is still the best one." The ceremony concluded with an unexpected gesture. A Vorkath representative, their dark armor now bearing Council insignia, presented Chen with an ancient weapon recovered from their archives. "To remind us," the Vorkath said in their deep voice, "that the future often lies in remembering the past." Later, at the celebration reception, Chen watched Council members practicing at a newly installed shooting range. Energy weapons fired alongside projectile guns, their different sounds creating a strange but harmonious symphony. "Quite a change from your first visit," Zextal said, joining her at the observation window. Chen nodded. The galaxy needed balance. Energy weapons have their place, but so do kinetic solutions. The key was learning to use both. And it only took us being nearly conquered by the Vorkath and being laughed at by the Council to prove it, Captain Rodriguez added with a smile. "Sometimes," Chen said, watching a group of alien cadets celebrating their first successful railgun qualification, "the best lessons are the ones that make us laugh at our own assumptions." The sound of gunfire echoed through the Council chamber, no longer a symbol of primitive warfare, but a reminder that progress doesn't always mean abandoning the old ways. Sometimes it means remembering why they worked in the first place. The galaxy had found its balance again, thanks to humanity's stubborn attachment to primitive solutions, and the Council would never laugh at human guns again.